Most men completely misread this. They see a woman becoming more talkative, more playful, more interested in their presence, and they assume she's simply being friendly. But sometimes there's something deeper happening. When a woman has gone a long time without emotional or physical intimacy, she may begin seeking something she doesn't know how to ask for directly. Not necessarily sex, not necessarily romance. Sometimes she's looking for connection, asterisk. And one of the most revealing ways that can happen is through small changes in the way she tries to get your attention. She may suddenly find reasons to start conversations. She may tease you more. She may become unusually interested in what you're doing. She may linger when the conversation should have ended. She may remember tiny details you mentioned weeks ago. Or she may simply begin creating little moments where you have to notice her. But here's the part most men get wrong. None of these behaviors by themselves prove that she wants intimacy. And if you interpret every friendly gesture as a sexual invitation, you can completely misunderstand the woman standing in front of you. The real clue isn't one isolated behavior. It's the pattern **. It's what changes when you're around her. It's whether she repeatedly seeks your attention. It's whether she becomes warmer with you specifically. It's whether she gives attention back instead of simply receiving yours. And there's an even deeper question. Why would someone who has been emotionally or physically disconnected for a long time suddenly become more attentive toward one particular person? The answer may have less to do with physical desire than most men think. Because when people experience a long period without meaningful closeness, they don't simply miss physical contact. They can miss being noticed. They miss feeling attractive. They miss feeling interesting. They miss having someone genuinely curious about them. They miss the feeling that their presence matters to another person, and sometimes that's where the first signs begin. Not with a dramatic confession, not with an obvious invitation, but with attention. So if you've ever wondered why a woman suddenly seems to notice you more, why she keeps finding reasons to talk to you, or why her energy seems different whenever you're nearby, don't rush to conclusions. There is a psychological pattern worth understanding, and once you recognize it, you'll become much better at distinguishing genuine interest from simple friendliness, because the difference is often hidden in what she does after she gets your attention. Think about what attention really means. Attention is one of the most basic forms of human connection. When someone looks at you while you're speaking, remembers something you said, asks how your day went, or notices a small change in your appearance, they're communicating something without saying it directly. I noticed you. And being noticed can feel surprisingly powerful, especially when someone has spent a long time feeling emotionally invisible. A woman who hasn't experienced meaningful intimacy for a long period may become more aware of the people around her who make her feel seen. But this doesn't mean she automatically wants a romantic relationship with every person who gives her attention. That's where maturity matters. Instead of asking, "Does she want me?" ask "Why does she seem to enjoy my attention?" That question changes everything. Maybe she feels comfortable around you. Maybe you make her laugh. Maybe she trusts your opinion. Maybe she enjoys your energy. Maybe she finds you attractive. Maybe she simply likes having someone who listens, or perhaps several of these things are happening at once. Human attraction is rarely one-dimensional, and the longer someone has gone without intimacy, the more important emotional context can become. Imagine a woman who has spent months or years focused entirely on work, family, responsibilities, or simply surviving a difficult period of life. She may have stopped thinking about romance altogether. Then she meets someone who makes her laugh, someone who listens without interrupting, someone who remembers what she said, someone who doesn't pressure her. Suddenly, something inside her becomes awake again, not necessarily because the man performed some magical trick, but because being around him reminds her of something she had forgotten. Asterisk asterisk, what it feels like to be emotionally engaged with another person. Asterisk asterisk, and that can change her behavior. She may start initiating conversations. She may become more playful. She may ask questions that seem slightly more personal. She may find excuses to remain around you. She may become more conscious of how she looks when you're nearby. But again, context matters. A single behavior means very little. A pattern means much more. And this is where many men make their first major mistake. They notice one sign and immediately build an entire story around it. She smiled at me. She must be attracted. She asked about my weekend. She must be interested. She touched my arm. She definitely wants something. Slow down, that's not how healthy attraction works. A mature man doesn't turn every interaction into evidence. He watches for consistency. Does she repeatedly seek your attention? Does she initiate conversations? Does she remember details about you? Does she make an effort to spend time with you? Does she respond warmly when you engage? Does she create opportunities for the connection to continue? That's a much stronger pattern. And here's where the psychology becomes even more interesting. When someone has been without intimacy for a long time, they may become more sensitive to emotional experiences that make them feel alive again. A meaningful conversation can feel unusually powerful. A sincere compliment can stay in their mind. A shared laugh can create unexpected excitement. A moment of genuine understanding can feel much deeper than it appears from the outside. That's why attraction doesn't always announce itself through obvious flirting. Sometimes it begins as asterisk asterisk, increased attention, asterisk asterisk. And that brings us to one of the most important signs to watch. When a woman isn't simply being friendly, she often begins to make the interaction easier for you. She doesn't just respond, she contributes. You ask a question and she asks one back. You tell a story and she wants another one. The conversation ends, but she finds another reason to continue it. You mention something you're doing later and she remembers it. You leave and later she brings up something from the conversation. These small behaviors can reveal something important. Asterisk asterisk, she's investing in the interaction. Asterisk asterisk, and investment is more meaningful than isolated signals. Think about it. If someone isn't interested in connecting with you, they usually don't need to create additional opportunities. But if someone repeatedly makes room for you in their attention, that's worth noticing. Still, don't turn this into a formula. A friendly person can also invest in conversation. A naturally social woman can make almost everyone feel important. That's why you should look at asterisk asterisk, specificity, asterisk asterisk. Is she like this with everyone, or does something change when she's around you? That's the question, because genuine attraction often has a certain personal quality. She isn't simply warm. She's particularly attentive to you. She remembers your preferences. She notices changes. She finds your opinions interesting. She reacts differently to your presence. And sometimes she becomes slightly more self-conscious around you. Maybe she adjusts her hair, straightens her clothes, checks her appearance, laughs more than usual, becomes a little quieter for a moment. None of these behaviors prove attraction. But when several occur alongside consistent emotional engagement, the pattern becomes more meaningful. And here's something most men never consider. Sometimes a woman isn't trying to get your attention because she wants you to make a move. She may simply want to know whether asterisk asterisk you notice her at all asterisk asterisk. That's a very different thing. She may be testing the emotional temperature of the relationship. Does he notice when I enter the room? Does he remember what I told him? Does he seem happy to see me? Does he listen? Does he treat me differently from everyone else? Those questions can exist beneath the surface without ever being spoken. And if you've been around someone for a while, you'll often notice a subtle change. The interaction starts feeling less random. She begins appearing in conversations more often. She creates little moments. She finds reasons to ask your opinion. She may even lightly challenge you or tease you. Why? Because playful interaction creates emotional energy. But there is a crucial distinction. If the behavior feels forced, uncomfortable, or one-sided, don't manufacture a meaning that isn't there. The healthiest approach is always the same. Asterisk asterisk, notice without assuming. Asterisk asterisk, that's real confidence. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes men make when they believe a woman is seeking their attention. They rush, they see a few positive signals, and immediately increase the intensity. More messages, more compliments, more physical closeness, more questions, more pressure, and suddenly, what felt natural becomes uncomfortable. This is where many promising connections disappear because attraction needs room. If you squeeze it too tightly, you don't strengthen it. You suffocate it. A mature man understands that attention is an invitation to connect, not permission to take control. If she talks to you more, talk with her. If she asks questions, answer honestly. If she jokes, joke back. If she shares something personal, listen. Don't immediately turn every emotional moment into a romantic escalation. Let the relationship breathe, and here's a powerful principle. Asterisk asterisk, don't reward attention with pressure. Reward it with presence. Asterisk asterisk, if she gives you 5 minutes of genuine conversation, don't immediately demand 50. If she opens up slightly, don't interrogate her. If she compliments you, receive it naturally. If she seems interested, allow the connection to develop instead of trying to force a result. That calmness can communicate something incredibly attractive. Asterisk asterisk, I don't need to rush you. Asterisk asterisk, and for someone who hasn't experienced intimacy in a long time, that can matter enormously. Because emotional safety may be exactly what she's been missing. Not another person demanding something from her. Someone who can simply enjoy being around her. Someone who makes her feel seen without making her feel pressured. Someone who understands that closeness is built, not extracted, and this leads to a deeper revelation. Sometimes a woman who has been without intimacy for a long time isn't primarily searching for a physical experience. She's searching for evidence that she can still feel something, that she can still be desired, that she can still be interesting. That someone can still look at her with genuine curiosity. That life hasn't become emotionally predictable forever. And when you understand that, your approach changes. You stop thinking, asterisk asterisk, how do I get her? Asterisk asterisk, and you start thinking, asterisk asterisk, how do I make this interaction meaningful? Asterisk asterisk, that's a much more powerful question. But there's another side of this psychology that deserves attention. Sometimes what looks like increased attention isn't attraction at all. It can be loneliness, it can be boredom, it can be a need for validation, it can be emotional vulnerability. It can be someone simply enjoying companionship after a difficult period. And if you mistake vulnerability for romantic interest, you can hurt both yourself and the other person. That's why mature attraction requires patience. Don't just look for signs that support what you hope is true. Look for evidence that challenges it too. If she only talks to you when she's lonely, that's different. If she disappears whenever life becomes busy, that's different. If she enjoys your attention but never invests back, that's different. If she consistently keeps the relationship within a clear friendship boundary, respect that. The goal isn't to find a way around her boundaries. The goal is to understand them And here's the surprising part. Respecting a boundary can sometimes tell you more about the quality of a connection than receiving attention ever could. Because when someone knows you will respect their limits, they have greater freedom to be honest with you. And honesty is where genuine relationships begin. You don't want a woman who acts interested because she feels pressured. You want a woman who chooses to be close because she genuinely wants to. There's a massive difference. One is compliance, the other is connection. And if you remember only one thing from this entire discussion, remember this. Asterisk asterisk, attention is a signal. Reciprocity is evidence. Consistency is what gives the signal meaning. Asterisk asterisk, that is the framework. Don't obsess over one smile. Look for patterns. Don't assume one conversation means attraction. Look for repeated investment. Don't interpret every touch as intimacy. Look at the emotional context, and don't rush to turn attention into romance. Give the connection space to reveal itself. Now imagine something different. Instead of chasing every sign, you become the man who doesn't need constant validation. You're present, you're warm, you're confident, you listen. You have your own life. You don't become desperate when she doesn't respond immediately. You don't become arrogant when she shows interest. You don't treat her attention like something you've won. You simply appreciate the connection. That changes your entire energy, and people notice because confidence isn't loud. Sometimes confidence is simply being comfortable enough to let another person choose. You don't need to force attraction. You create the conditions where honesty can exist. You communicate, you observe, you respect, and then you let the answer reveal itself. If she continues moving towards you emotionally, that's meaningful. If she begins initiating more, that's meaningful. If she creates opportunities to spend time with you, that's meaningful. If she opens up and trusts you with personal parts of her life, that's meaningful. And if eventually the connection becomes romantic, it should feel like a mutual development, not a victory you achieved through decoding her. That's the difference between manipulation and maturity. Manipulation asks, asterisk asterisk, how can I make her want me? Asterisk asterisk, maturity asks, asterisk asterisk, do we genuinely want each other? Asterisk asterisk, one focuses on control. The other focuses on compatibility. And after 55, that distinction becomes even more important. Because at this stage of life, you don't need another relationship built on guessing games. You need something peaceful, something honest, something where attraction doesn't require pretending. Something where both people can say what they want. Something where affection feels natural. Something where neither person has to chase constantly to keep the other interested. That's what real intimacy looks like. Not simply physical closeness, but emotional safety, mutual curiosity, respect, laughter, trust, and the feeling that someone genuinely wants to know you. So if a woman who hasn't experienced intimacy in a long time suddenly begins seeking your attention, don't immediately assume you know why. Don't turn every smile into a confession. Don't treat loneliness as attraction. Don't mistake friendliness for desire. Instead, slow down, look at the pattern, notice whether she invests, notice whether she initiates, notice whether she remembers. Notice whether she makes room for you. Notice whether the connection grows over time. And most importantly, notice how she feels around you. Does she seem relaxed? Does she feel heard? Does she become more open? Does she choose to stay? Those details tell a much more meaningful story. Because sometimes the first sign that a person is ready for intimacy again isn't physical at all. It's the moment they start wanting to be asterisk asterisk, noticed asterisk asterisk. They begin looking for someone who sees them beyond their appearance, someone who remembers their stories, someone who listens to the things they don't usually say, someone who makes them feel alive without making them feel pressured. And if you happen to be that person, don't rush the moment, respect it. Because the most meaningful connection isn't created when you finally get someone's attention. It's created when they realize they genuinely enjoy giving it to you, and perhaps that's the real lesson. A woman who has been without intimacy for a long time may not always tell you what she's missing. She may not even fully understand it herself. But she may begin revealing it through the way she seeks connection, through the conversations she starts, through the moments she creates, through the attention she gives, through the emotional doors she slowly opens. Your job isn't to force those doors open. Your job is to be trustworthy enough that if she chooses to open them, she knows she won't regret it. Because real attraction doesn't begin when someone finally gives you access to them. It begins when two people feel safe enough to become curious about each other. And when that curiosity becomes mutual, when attention becomes reciprocal, when trust becomes consistent, something much deeper can begin. Not a game, not a trick, not a secret formula. A genuine connection between two people who are choosing, freely and naturally, to move closer. And that kind of intimacy is worth far more than any temporary signal. Because when someone doesn't just notice you, but chooses to keep noticing you, that's when attention starts becoming something meaningful,